Shields up, Ironbreakers. Rurkan here coming at you with another video. Welcome back to Dauntless, and today I'm going to be bringing you my sword build. And some of you guys will look at this video and go like, wait a minute, Rurkan, you don't even have like a sword guide, and yet you're bringing us a sword build? Like, what's the deal behind that? And the reasoning why I don't have a sword guide is because I don't think I'm particularly good at playing with the sword. In all honesty, like I know the combos. I know you got your 3 light attacks into 2 heavy attacks. You got your 2 heavy attacks into how many light attacks you want. You have your 2 different specials. You have your modifiers. All of that stuff. I actually unlocked everything. I believe I'm currently rank 16 in the sword, so I should have access to all of the skills in the sword. But like I said, I don't actually think I'm particularly good at it. I don't jump around monsters. I don't go around doing perfect dodges and reading all of the behemoth's movements perfectly when I'm playing with the sword. No, I brute force behemoths when it comes to the sword, and that is why I did this build. So the purpose of this is not for you to be the most skilled player out there and dodge everything perfectly in order to get the best results. So if that's the type of build that you're looking for, this ain't it. The purpose of this build is for you to just brute force through the behemoths. This is like if you want to farm and you want to like watch Netflix at the same time, so you don't want to pay that much attention to what the behemoth is doing. This is the build that you bring out. Or if simply you don't feel particularly comfortable against certain behemoths, you might want to bring this build out as well, because this is the build that allows you to do a lot of mistakes. And I do mean a lot of mistakes. You're going to be tanking through behemoth hits left and right and just completely continuing to dish out damage as if whatever is happening is none of your business. As a matter of fact, in a couple of attempts, I was even like on fire, and I didn't even bother picking up the molten buff to just like get rid of being on fire. No, I was like, no, the hell with it. I'll just keep slashing away. No problem whatsoever. So let's get started by analyzing this build. Now, the weapon is going to be the Call of Dawn. Now, the reason I like this weapon is because it comes with cunning, and also because it has a 10% chance for your attacks to hit twice. So I think that that is a particularly powerful combination of abilities. I also like the way that this sword looks. For those of you that play Diablo 2, this sword reminds me a little bit of Azure Wrath, which was Tyrael's sword. Wait, no, it wasn't Tyrael's sword. It was just whatever. Azure Wrath was like one of the major swords in Diablo 2. And I really liked Azure Wrath, and as such, just the look of the sword also appeals to me quite a bit. And I know that some of you guys will be like, Rurkan, why don't you just use the Hatred sword, whatever that dark sword is that is made from the, what do they call it here? The exotic sword that is made from materials of Shroud. I don't like that sword. I don't like that sword at all. See, what that does is when you activate its special, which is essentially Valiant Overdrive, it is going to drain your health, and it is going to give you health drain in return. And I found that a lot of times behemoths, they would run away from me, and I would be left just like with my health draining, and I couldn't cancel that effect. And I was like, nah, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. So I went with the Call of Dawn. In case you guys are wondering why I'm not using the Hatred to tank through hits, I like Call of Dawn more than the Hatred. That's just the way those things panned out. I tried out the Hatred, don't get me wrong. I have like a Hatred at +9 or something. I tried it out. I just didn't like the way that particular weapon played. Anyway, in terms of modifications, you're going to want Valiant Overdrive. Personally, I don't really like the other attack, which is the spinning thing. I just don't like that. I don't think it's particularly useful for sword, but I could be wrong. I could see it being good for swords that have a bunch of procs and stuff. Maybe even for Call of Dawn, it would be good. But I just like Valiant Overdrive more. And then I want to bring up Adhesive Hilt, because the whole point of this build is to be able to tank through behemoth damage. So you're going to be dishing out as much damage as possible whilst not being staggered, so that you're basically tanking through the hits and healing yourself at the same time with some of the other skills that we're going to be getting. Now, on this sword, we're going to be putting a Cunning Cell and an Energized Cell. We will talk about all of the skills once we get to the end of the build. Now, your head is going to be the Skullforge. Now, the main reason behind using the Skullforge exotic, which is actually potentially one of my favorite exotics in the game, you know, armor and weapons combined, I really like Skullforge, because basically what Skullforge does is the more damage you deal, it grants you like a shield towards your stamina. And particularly for this build, it can be very interesting if you pull off the combo of, I don't forget what, is it repeating elements? I forget what it's called. It's the 2 heavies and then spam light attacks. If you are doing that combo, a lot of times you'll be able to just like stay slashing for a really long time because of the stamina effect of the helmet. But not just that, it also brings you a defensive slot that you're going to be putting an Iceborne cell into. +3 Iceborne cell, of course. Then we got the Nasher Cloak. And you guys are like, whoa, Nasher Cloak? The hell are you doing with Nasher Cloak? Well, I need the tough perk, and I don't actually have 2 tough cells. And also, I'm not sure that I would want to have a whole bunch of items with defensive slots. So we're going to go with the Nasher Cloak. And also, it's a pretty easy item to get, I figured. So it's going to make the build a little bit more accessible, hopefully. And then we're going to put a +3 tough cell on there as well to max out the tough perk. And I'll talk about why we need the tough perk and why we need all this other stuff at the end. Then you're going to get yourself a Boreal Might +10 for the gloves. And you're going to put a Rage cell in there, so that you get max rage, because you're going to be playing, again, very much like my axe build, you're going to be playing at half health so that you take full advantage of Iceborne and stuff like that. And then finally you got the Boreal March, and for that technique cell, realistically you can put whatever the hell you want in there. I put +3 Molten, but it's not super important. It's just Molten does come in handy, particularly if you're doing Heroic Plus and you happen to be fighting, what's his name again? Hellion, because he puts fire all over the friggin' place, is annoying as hell. Molten helps out a little bit in those situations, but it's not really mandatory because you will be able to heal yourself even if you are on fire. So long as you are hitting a behemoth, you're gonna be fine, okay? And then you're gonna wanna bring Drask's Eye, and you're gonna put another energized cell on there so that you get maximum energized. Now, when you put all of the pieces together, here's what your build is gonna be looking like. +6 to Cunning, which is going to increase your critical strike chance to 15%. +6 to Energized, which is going to bring your weapon charge rate up by 40%. +6 to Iceborne. You guys should be familiar with this if you watched my axe build. This is going to, whenever you're below 50% health, you're going to get 30% decreased damage taken, and you're going to get 8% lifesteal that cannot heal you above 50%. Then you're going to get +6 Rage, which when you're under 50% health, you're going to just deal flat out 25% more damage, which is going to be great because that 25% more damage also adds on to the additional hit that you do from the proc of the Call of Dawn. And on top of it, there's also a 15% chance for you to crit on top of those 25% damage. So that's pretty much all of your DPS skills. Then you get +6 Tough. Now this is really where your tankiness is going to be coming from. You're going to have a lot more health than normal. You're going to have 500 more health than normal, and on top of it, you're going to increase the healing received from all sources by 50%. This includes the lifesteal that comes from Iceborne, and the combination of Tough and Iceborne is what is essentially allowing us to be as tanky as we are in this build. I've done a lot of testing with this stuff, and if you don't have the Tough perk on there, you're not going to be able to survive a lot of the hits that the monster's going to dish out in heroic mode, so keep that in mind. And then finally, we have the 3 Molten on there. Again, this is not mandatory. You can replace this with whatever you want. Literally, whatever you prefer to have on that technique slot, go for it, okay? So, now let's talk about the build itself. Why the +6 Energized, for instance? That is because you're going to want to get yourself into the Valiant Overdrive as fast as possible every single time, because that is going to trigger the Adhesive Hilt, which means the monster can't knock you around and you can just basically be in its face the whole time. So the whole purpose is like your sword charges mega fast. You're going to be able to keep that Valiant Overdrive up as much as you possibly can, therefore transforming you into a beastly tank. That's why Energize is so important. Cunning is just an easy pick because Call of Dawn already comes with +3 Cunning, therefore it's easy to max it out. It's critical chance, and remember, this sword has that additional chance of giving you an additional hit, which can also be a crit. So, you know, it's just +6 Cunning was a big no-brainer for this build. The Rage, obviously, whenever you're below health, whenever you're below 50% health, you're just going to deal more damage, and you're going to spend most of the time with this build below 50% health. The Toughness is there so that your Iceborne works properly, and also it makes you even tankier. And yeah, the Molten, again, you can take that or leave it. Now, the important thing about this build is that you don't even have to pay that much attention to the combos that you are doing. The one thing that I would tell you is that if you take a significant amount of damage and you need to heal that damage up through the lifesteal, what you want to do is you want to use the heavy attacks on the sword, because they will leech more health than your regular attacks, and they will get you back up to snuff faster than using the light attacks. Other than that, do whatever combo you feel like it. You want to do 3 lows, 2 heavies, go for it. You want to do 2 heavies, a bunch of lows, go for it. If you happen to down the monster, one of the combos that I personally really like doing is just go in there with the 2 heavies and the infinite number of small attacks. And that is just going to give you so much damage, particularly if you have Valiant Overdrive up. It's just like infinite amounts of waves going off. You'll probably see me doing it a bunch of times in the footage that you have in the background. And that's pretty much it. That is my brute force sword build. It's not about finesse. It's not about dodging. It's not about being the most skilled sword player. It's not even about getting the best times against behemoths. It's just about being a slacker and going out there and just swinging your sword against behemoth face. Let me know what you guys think about this build in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this video, if it helped you out in any way, please leave a like. It helps me out a lot. It supports this channel. Just leaving a like supports it more than you can possibly imagine. Thank you very much for taking the time to do that. Stay strong and may your shields never break.